did they get that job because they're in office, or did they have that job before they entered office? That's what, you know, the financial disclosure forms, you can look at our website, integrityflorida.org, and examine that. And I want to make another point. I mean, the folks that filed potential voting conflicts should be commended. You know, we need more disclosure. It's not a bad thing when you see people that have potential voting conflicts in our report. It's a good thing that they disclosed it. You know, so let's make sure when we look at these potential conflicts, we're recognizing those that disclose, because I'm sure there are others that didn't disclose.
Do you see a similar conflict if a lawmaker works for, say, an association? I know somebody who's not listed in your report, Senator Montford, is basically the head of the school district superintendent association. Is that a similar conflict in your mind?
It ought to be disclosed. You know, any legislator who has an employer that lobbies the legislature, whether it be Senator Montford, you know, Senator Gardner, others that have employers that lobby the legislature, they get business from the legislature, ought to disclose potential voting conflicts. If bills come up, they're going to benefit their employers.
You have this list of gifts, and of course we all know that there are many different ways in which people give money to lawmakers. Should we be looking at these gifts through through a different lens than, say, companies that give money through committees, or, you know, what's the significance of these gifts?
What Integrity Florida is looking for are, you know, our legislators or public officials getting gifts because of their public position. You know, it's okay for people to give gifts to each other, but if you're only getting a gift because you're in office, a gift that you wouldn't get out of office, that should be questioned. You know, we had a bunch of legislators that were flown to Taiwan. I mean, we'd all like to have a trip to Taiwan. But would we get one if we weren't a legislator? You know, Lieutenant Governor Carroll disclosed a $12,000 gift from Enterprise Florida for a trade mission to South Africa. We all like to go to South Africa. But Enterprise Florida has paid for a lot of other public officials to go on trade missions. You know, why was that gift disclosed and not others? That's, you know, a big takeaway is that there's so much inconsistency of disclosure and what's reported in Florida and what's not. We need to get down to the bottom of it. Why are some gifts being disclosed and not others? Why are some, you know, outside clients and by legislators being disclosed and some aren't? And we need to examine these disclosure forms and ask those questions.
Dan, have you approached the Ethics Commission on the idea of online disclosure? Does this require legislation, or is this something that the Ethics Commission could do itself?
We believe the Ethics Commission could do it itself. You know, Integrity Florida showed the way. It didn't cost us a penny to put more than 600 important documents for the public to have online at integrityflorida.org. We use the website scrib.com. Their technology is free. I would encourage every government agency to use these free websites like a scrib.com to upload government documents as soon as they're created so citizens can have them. Because government information should be public information. You know, government meetings ought to be posted in Google Calendars. You know, every agency ought to be on Facebook and Twitter. I mean, these are the tools that citizens are using now to communicate, so it's time to modernize our government. It's time to engage citizens where they're at on Facebook and Twitter, Scrib. Let's modernize these tools to hold our government officials accountable.
Has the Ethics Commission, have you made that pitch to them, and have they said no staff can't do? I mean, any response from them?
We did see, maybe this is a step in the right direction. At the Ethics Commission meeting, the last one, they informed the commission that they were purchasing equipment to make electronic all the old files they have on microfilm. And we hope that's the first step towards putting all the records that the Ethics Commission has in electronic format for the public to have. We believe we've shown the model that it can be done with just rolling up our sleeves and putting in some time to put it online at no cost to taxpayers. And we hope that Florida will join the 27 other states that put financial disclosure information online already. It's easily done.
Was there any one lawmaker who stood out while you're conducting this research that either received too many gifts, or had major conflicts through their lobbying, or increased their net worth a questionable amount? Like, was any one lawmaker stand out?
We'll leave it to citizens to decide. You know, integrityflorida.org now has, you know, the net worth and the detailed financial information about your policymakers from last year to this year. So citizens should take a look at the forms and see if somebody has increased their net worth or not, and compare it to the voting record. But we'll leave it to citizens and others to decide if someone you know, did something wrong. But that's what this tool's supposed to allow us to do, to make those judgments.
Dan, how do the gifts square with the gift ban lobbying thing that we're all familiar with here?
You let Ben address that.
Well, you know, the gift ban prohibits gifts from lobbyists to legislators, and so these gifts that legislators are receiving that we've shown in this report are gifts from, you know, firms that don't have lobbyists for the Florida legislature. So they declare those gifts just like any other state official has to declare them.
And some gifts are still not being reported. We didn't see any reports of gifts from ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council, to, in some cases, give scholarships to fly lawmakers around to their conference. And according to the rules of the legislature, they don't have to be reported. Gifts from a national or regional education organization, especially if the members are legislators, don't have to be disclosed. That's a pretty big loophole. Maybe we ought to look at closing that, having the legislature close that loophole. But the gifts you see, I mean, you've got gifts of cigars the legislators give each other. You have Representative Larry Metz reported that his neighbor mowed his lawn during session. But that's a good thing. I'm glad he disclosed that as a gift of something of value while he was serving. You know, we need to make sure our public officials are disclosing gifts and advantages they have that the public doesn't have. That's what's important about disclosure. That's how to look at the forms, not for how much somebody has or how much somebody's making, but do they have what they have? Are they making more because of their public service job?
Well, I was speaking with Representative Matt Gates last week, and he mentioned that, you know, as someone who works for a law firm that lobbies, he's actually not allowed to have any contact with the lobbyists for his firm. Do you think that that's an adequate rule that can be policed? And I mean, what do you know about that rule and how it's applied? And yeah.
We know that there's just the rule seems to be interpreted differently by different lawmakers. Representative Gates was one of the lawmakers that fully disclosed all of his firm's lobbying clients before the legislature last session, and we commend him for doing that. The others that did, you'll see in our report, others didn't disclose who their clients were. So we don't have any way to know if they may have potentially been influenced. You know, some lawmakers, like Representative Corcoran and Senator Joyner, disclosed potential voting conflicts about their firm's lobbying clients, and that's a good thing. Others didn't. One other thing about Representative Gates, he informed us, we know in our report, that the one lobbyist that his law firm had after the legislative session is no longer with the firm. So you know, we'll see. You know, he's probably not going to be on the list next year because his firm, at present, he informs us, does not have a lobbyist right now.
Last year, there was legislation that didn't go that far, but related to trying to prohibit legislators from working for community colleges or universities. What do you think of that? And then that gets into the whole idea of, I guess, if you work for a government,
Right.
should there be some kind of restriction, or is disclosure sufficient?
Well, let's start with disclosure. You know, take a look at the Louisiana form, Louisiana-style disclosure, where you know, outside income related to government is reported. Nonprofit board memberships are reported. Spouse information is reported. We can, you know, hold our officials accountable by knowing more information about their outside employment. When it comes to additional government jobs that our legislators or other officials might get, additional government income, you know, perhaps we ought to look at, you know, when did they get that job? Did they come into office with it? Or is it the case kind of like the Speaker Sansom, that a six-figure job, it happens the first day he becomes speaker? I mean, that's more questionable than a position that somebody has been working for a college, you know, for their entire career, or a number of years, or at least before they entered office. What we need to look for is, you know, during the term of service, is the private